What's up, YouTube? How you doing today? How's everything going with you? Hope you got lots of love. Hope you got lots of liberty. Hope you're all about truth like we are over here. You know what we're doing. We're showing up Monday through Friday. Took yesterday off, but usually every day, Monday through Friday. 111. Getting our personal work in. We do a full body every day. You know, it doesn't have to be crazy intense if you're doing it every day. We talked about that in other videos. We can talk about whatever you guys want in the chat. But today, first, we're going to talk about how to argue with MAGA without becoming what we hate, which is people who are not interested in truth, people who only want liberty for themselves but not for others, people who only want love for themselves but not for others. We're here to talk about the things where we all have common ground, because everybody wants liberty, everybody wants love, everybody wants truth, and we have one political party hell-bent on denying those things to other people. What's up, Jennifer? So if love and liberty aren't for everyone, then they're not love and liberty, full stop. If you believe in love and liberty but it's not for everyone, then it's not love and liberty. If your freedoms require someone else's chains, that's not freedom. It's the desire for dominance, which is fascism. If your freedom requires somebody else to be in chains, that's not freedom, it's fascism. Today I'm going to show you why we all keep yelling past each other, and the exact rules I'm going to use here so that we can argue hard about what we believe in and learn without becoming what any of us hate. Okay, because it doesn't matter what side you're on. People hate when other people don't stand for liberty. People hate when other people stand for love, but they won't really say it like that. Because they want liberty, they want love, they don't understand that it's reciprocal. Every day I see two groups on my channel. Some of these MAGA get highly triggered and tell me that I'm the problem because I stand for these principles. That's not really why they think I'm the problem, but we're going to talk about why standing for these principles can trigger some people so badly. Some of my liberal friends are trying to argue against MAGA and fight one lie at a time. You know, when MAGA's putting out 10,000 lies because their followers don't actually care what's true, they care about demonstrating loyalty. They care about showing obedience to their group. They don't actually believe the things that they're saying. They are representing a jersey. And to my liberal friends trying to fight one lie at a time, they burn out. And I need both groups to hear me. This is not a facts or a beliefs problem that we're having. It's an identity problem. And we're going to talk about identity protective cognition. And this first part of the video is going to take about 10-15 minutes. Then we're going to get into the workout, react to some YouTube videos, and talk about anything that the chat wants to talk about today. So we have an identity problem, not a facts or beliefs problem. Both sides need to understand this. This is an identity problem. It's what psychologists call identity protective cognition. Right here, identity protective cognition. And that is when information threatens your in-group identity. Our brain defends the group identity and rejects the new info no matter how sound it is, no matter how true it is. So identity protective cognition is when we identify with a group and new information comes in and it causes a conflict with how we identify with that group, and our brains reject it without even considering how true or accurate it is. This is human psychology. It's not politics. It's not partisan beliefs. This is how our brains and emotions work. MAGA has its version. The left has its version. Whenever our identity gets threatened, people feel shame. And shame often spikes anger and the impulse to attack. Okay, so when our identity is threatened, who we believe that we are to our core is threatened by new information, a lot of times we feel shame. That shame can cause a spike in anger. Have someone else made us feel that shame. We were happy with our little self-delusion, with our little group, with our identity, and somebody comes and shines a light on what's actually going on, and then we feel ashamed for going along with it, and that makes us angry at the person who cut on the lights. And that can often lead the impulse to attack whoever it is shining the light. Think about somebody coming to a drug addict and telling them they have a problem and they need to quit. Shame, anger, attack. Think about coming to somebody who's in a cult and telling them that they're in a cult. Shame, anger, attack. If you've ever felt suddenly furious mid-argument, or from something you're hearing on YouTube or the news, if you just all of a sudden feel furious, then you have felt identity protective cognition. Okay, because that fury comes from the lizard, the primal part of our brain. Our prefrontal cortex is what uses logic and rational and thinks through things. It doesn't get furious when it hears false information. That's the amygdala, the lizard part of our brain, the primal part of our brain, the less intelligent, less human part of our brain. There's another piece to this called moral disengagement. It's how otherwise decent people convince themselves that committing harm or co-signing it is actually protecting something sacred. So moral disengagement. How can people want liberty and love for themselves and then justify trying to steal that from other people without feeling like hypocrites, without feeling like liars, without feeling ashamed? This is moral disengagement. How otherwise decent people convince themselves that committing harm or co-signing it is actually protecting something sacred. So they're trying to protect their nation, their faith, a perceived order or hierarchy they were indoctrinated to defend, that they identify with. People under moral disengagement will rename their cruelty as tough love. They will be cruel and they will call it love. Okay, and these are some of the signs to see that somebody is morally disengaged, is this shameless lying and dishonesty that will manifest. Because they will be display shame, anger, attack, cruelty, but they will call it tough love. They will shift all of the blame to their victims. So no longer are they hypocrites because they want love and liberty, but they're denying them to somebody else. They're going to blame those people for this tough love they had to do to take it away from them. Or they convince themselves that the people they're going after are not fully human. They dehumanize people and say that group is not like me. They don't deserve liberty and love like I do because they are less than human. When you see childish bullying being sold as strength, that's moral disengagement at work. Okay, when you see childish bullying, but they will never face a real man. They will never show their face. They will never show you any signs of mental strength. They will sling mud, they'll call names, they'll act like being a bully is alpha. That's when you know you're seeing moral disengagement. Okay? And so you can't deal with what the bully is saying like you don't deal with what a crackhead is saying. You deal with that they are morally disengaged the way that a crackhead is addicted to a drug. This is a message specifically to my MAGA viewers. I am not your enemy. I'm a mirror for what you're putting out into society. I am a mirror with boundaries. I know you haven't experienced that before. I know that in these cult-like groups and religions, the trade-off is self-delusion. When you are obedient to the group, you can claim anything and they will not challenge you. They will support you. That's part of being in the hyena gang. That's part of being in the crackhead gang. That's part of being in the MAGA gang. You can say that you're strong, but you don't ever have to show it. You can be a gravy seal. You can just talk like a bully and other people in the cult will go along, and nobody believes you're strong. You don't believe it, they don't believe it, but they go along with it, and that feels better than the shame that you feel for not actually doing anything, not being able to show up like a man and debate your ideas face to face with other real men. That makes them feel ashamed and small and weak. So what do? They join a gang. Okay? And when you join the gang says you have to spread these 10,000 lies and you have to pretend that you believe them. Release the Epstein files one day, don't worry about the Epstein files the next day. That's what you do in our gang. And they say, okay, just tell me I'm strong, daddy. Tell me I'm smart, daddy. And daddy says, hey, you don't have to pass any tests. You don't have to do any peer-reviewed work. You don't have to debate anybody. You're smart because you put on that red hat. You're strong because you put on that red hat. It is self-delusion that these people need like a drug. If your movement is truly for freedom, then freedom must reach the people you dislike also. If your movement is truly for freedom or liberty, then freedom or liberty must reach the people you dislike also. That's how you can tell us from them. I don't want any different liberty, love, freedom, or truth for myself than I want for every other human on planet Earth. If you can say the same thing, then we're brother or sisters. If you can say the same thing, then you can acknowledge all this cult-like behavior that I'm talking about is true. Dennis says this somehow must dovetail with narcissism. Dennis, we've talked about before the ties to white evangelical churches, and there is nothing more narcissistic than claiming you know what is unknowable. None of us know where we came from. None of us actually know. The word know has real meaning. It doesn't mean believe strongly. It doesn't mean hypothesize with great certainty. K-N-O-W means you know that if I have one bean here and one bean here, I have two beans. I know that is true. I know that there is a sun in the sky that gives us warmth. There's only so many things that we can know. We know the laws of aerodynamics so that we can fly planes. Okay, but we do not know where we came from or where we're going. We can believe, that's fine, that's part of liberty. We all get to believe. But when you tell people that you know something that is unknowable, that's a lie, and that is the peak of narcissism. Narcissism is part of the drug of self-delusion. A narcissist would like to believe they're strong without putting in any work. So yes, narcissism, I would love to hear your thoughts on how narcissism dovetails with it. Tell me if I'm on track with what you're thinking or if you have your own thoughts. But I think narcissism comes into this very heavily. And can we find narcissism in both parties? Absolutely. But again, just like we can have skin cancer and brain cancer, and both are undesirable, nobody wants cancer, we still know which one is worse. And that's clearly MAGA. It is, the Democrats we can criticize all day long when we have dealt with the brain cancer that is MAGA. And MAGA, I'm not here to insult you. I'm here to call you back out of the drug-induced haze of self-delusion and tell you you're capable of so much more. There's somebody in your life, if you're MAGA, that if you were to ride or die for liberty, truth, and love, they would bully you, they would outcast you, they would make fun of you, they would fire you, it would hurt you somehow socially. And so you give them your obedience. You choose to obey being hateful, fascist. Fascism is the opposite of liberty. If you want liberty and freedom for yourself that you will not extend to other people equally, strength is the courage to be equal. If you're not strong enough to say, I don't need an advantage over you, I don't need a head start, let's compete head to head. Let's make it as fair as possible so I can really see how strong I am. I want it to be fair. I want it to be equal so that I can actually see, am I getting strong? Am I strong? And if I'm not strong compared to whatever I'm trying to be strong, if I'm trying to be strong in my policies, in my integrity as a human being, I know that these are the highest principles because these are what every baby is born wanting. Before any information comes into that young child of a human, that child has something inside it that wants liberty. That child doesn't want to be forced to do things it doesn't want to do. Every human spirit longs for liberty from the time it's born. It longs for truth. That child trusts the people raising it to tell it what's true. If you raise a child on lies, it will not survive. It will be weak. It will be stunted. It will be a shell of its potential if you keep truth from children, which we do systemically, and we see the results of that. The same thing with love. People who want to act like love is soft. Love is not soft. Love is when you are strong and you see a bully bullying somebody weak, you bully the bully. You make the bully feel their own medicine, and then because you love the bully like you loved the victim you were defending them from, you reform them. You say, look, you're not going to get what you want emotionally bullying this person. I had to bully you to show you the difference. I'm not here to bully MAGA. I'm not here to call you bad people. I'm saying you're hooked on a bad drug. I don't know how you got there. Everybody, the way that you're raised, the experiences you have lead you to where you are today. But your free will and your agency as a human being gives you the ability to choose what you know is true every single day. No matter where you are, no matter how you got there. Because a lot of the MAGA dads were such terrible fathers that they raised these stunted children who look at a man who had to tell his child all their life how masculine and manly he was, and they believed it, and they believed that that bullying is masculine and manly, but they never saw their dad face a real man. They never saw their dad debate a real man. They never saw him compete head to head on an equal playing field with a real man, and they know that inside. It causes shame, it causes anger, and it causes them to then attack anybody who invokes this shame by pointing out, you're not strong by hating people. You're not cool or manly because you use slogans like rainbow, mafia, libtard, whatever you like. A parrot repeating a phrase to get a treat is all that is. It's an obedient showing that only insecure men would do. Strength is the courage to make rules that restrain your side when it's tempted to cheat. Strength is the courage to make rules that restrain your team when it's tempted to cheat. Okay, like all my little MAGA boys love the Second Amendment, right? Second Amendment shall not be infringed. Second Amendment, but you're willing to turn your back on the Constitution to give Trump a third term. Because you're high, you don't care what's true. You're not even thinking about any of the stuff they're telling you to repeat. You're doing it to show obedience to weak men. If that's your dad, I'm sorry for you. You love your dad? Tell him he's weak if he's standing against this stuff. Some of you are in peer groups or social circles that will punish you economically if you stand for these things. So are you going to accept knowing that you believe in these things, but never representing it? Are you just going to accept not being who you truly are as a person? Because if these confines of economic constraint weren't put on you, then would you stand for love? Then would you stand for liberty? What if you have the situation reversed? What if you have to stand and live by these things before you can break the chains that are suppressing you from being strong enough to be who you truly are, which all of you believe in love? You can make fun of it all you want. You still want it for yourself, so you look silly. You look silly acting like love is soft. I enlisted in the Marine Corps because I loved the United States of America. I loved its people, and I wanted to defend them. So love does not make you soft. Love will make you do the hardest things. Love will make you do the hardest things. Strength is the courage to make rules that restrain our side when it's tempted to cheat. If you've been trained by a closed-loop outrage machine that rewards loyalty and attacks truth, test me. Bring your sources, not the little parroted slogans that you were programmed to repeat to get treats from the cult. Bring your sources, bring your ideas, bring your truth. If I'm wrong, I will gladly correct it on air. I am not afraid to be proven wrong because I want to know the truth. I love the truth. If I'm wrong, prove me wrong. I will bow to you, celebrate you, thank you. But if your position cannot survive equal rules for both teams, if you have political beliefs that are different for Democrats than they are for Republicans, then the problem isn't me. It's your own moral standard. There's overwhelming evidence that the right-wing media sphere has become uniquely self-insulating and rewards outright falsehoods that flatter the tribe or the cult. And just go check the research for yourself, not the online cult gang vibes. Okay, all of these like, it's cool to be red-pilled, but being red-pilled means you scoff at love. You scoff, you want liberty for yourself, but not for other people. That's ridiculous. When you see a group of people, so if I identify with being red-pilled, it automatically means I don't want liberty for immigrants the same as I want for myself. I don't love people who weren't born here the same as I love people who were born here. You can't live like that and expect good things to come from it. But the way that people do get trapped into that is by people tricking them that they need this cult, that they need to follow a vertical authority, which is daddy, priest, God. No matter if God, priest, daddy tell you to lie, you lie. That's being a good person to people in a cult. That's called vertical morality. It means what you can see in front of your face doesn't matter. It's what the person over the top of you tells you is what you believe is good. In the Bible, it was God telling Abraham to kill Isaac. You know that killing an innocent child is wrong, but he said, Sky Daddy told me to do it. God told me to do it, so I'm gonna do it, and that makes me a good person. That is how these people believe, and it's like, it's the same as being a crackhead. Like, you can get high on crack and it's gonna feel good for a minute, but every time you come down, you're gonna feel shame and anger, and you're gonna be weaker than you were before. Do you choose to keep chasing that dragon and hitting that crack pipe and giving that dealer your life over and over and over and attacking the people who come in and say, yo, you're hooked on a drug. I'm here to help you. I'm showing up for you. I'm here. I can show you a way out of this, but I cannot do it for you, and I cannot sanction your behavior. But I'm here. Do you feel shame and anger when somebody points out that you don't stand for these things? Or do you take a hard look at yourself in the mirror and say, how did I get here? This is a message to liberals. Stop shadowboxing 10,000 bait posts / lies. Stop shadowboxing the 10,000 lies that MAGA spreads throughout society. The goal for us is not to disprove every lie. The goal is to expose the MAGA fascist operating system. Identify the defense, point out the shame spikes, highlight the moral disengagement, and the outrage economy that monetizes their attention. Let's go through this. This is the MAGA operating system. Okay? I'm pro release the Epstein files yesterday. I'm against releasing the Epstein files today. Okay? Don't argue with whether or not we should release the files. They already know that we should. That's not what they're doing. They're showing obedience to their team. Yes, Daddy, I'll do whatever you say, Daddy. Tell me we want to release the files. I'm going to say it every day. Tell me we don't want to release the files. I'm going to stop talking about it. We don't argue the merits of releasing the files. This is used one lie out of 10,000, for example. First, we name the defense. Oh, you guys are defending PDFs right now. Why? What would make you defend PDFs? Obedience and loyalty in exchange for self-delusion of a cult? Getting to play pretend you're smart when you haven't read any books, when you can't debate anybody, when you don't know anything about economics or policy, you really have no idea what's going on, but you want to participate? Put on a red hat, they'll tell you you're Einstein. All you got to do is that simple motion. That is the defense of somebody who is switching from one position to the other the next day is, oh, you're a cheerleader. You're not a debater. You're not a principled man. You don't stand on anything. You're a cheerleader. That's what you're doing. Identify the defense. Number 1. Point out the shame spikes. Oh, and now you feel ashamed because I'm saying that what you did is actually what you did. You were totally against PDFs, ready to release the Epstein files, and now I'm here saying, hey, what happened? Look, this was you. Now you're 180 degrees different today. Look at you on your knees for this disgusting. I have to edit myself, bite my tongue for the aunties that may be watching. I could give Donald Trump every expletive you've ever heard in your life. I mean, he is what MAGA tells us beta males are. Everything MAGA says is a beta male, that's Donald Trump. And then they kneel to that. So identify the defense is, oh, you're a cheerleader. Then the shame, oh, it makes you feel bad for me to point that out. Don't get angry at me. Don't attack me. You did this. I'm telling the truth. This is you. I'm telling the truth. And why does that make you feel ashamed? Because you know you're doing something wrong. Highlight the moral and identify the defense in this, and it's different in different circumstances. But in the example of Epstein, it's you're being a cheerleader. You don't care about PDFs, or you look in white evangelical Christian churches where most of them come from. So no, we're not going to debate the issue because that's not what it is. You're being a cheerleader right now. You've switched 180 degrees. You don't know what you're talking about. Your neck is backwards. Point out the shame. Now you feel ashamed because I'm telling the truth. You're mad at me because I'm telling the truth. Highlight the moral disengagement. You're going to defend PDFs? You're going to get on your knees for what you tell me is a beta male to defend billionaires and PDFs? Who are hurting working class people, who are hurting the victims of PDFs, who are denying food assistance to the most impoverished and disadvantaged among us, who are literally shipping out immigrants who worked for MAGA, who worked for Trump, to Africa without any kind of trial or due process, let alone what they're doing with kids. But you're morally disengaged from that. It doesn't bother you that this group you're kneeling to is causing all of this suffering because you're morally disengaged. Morally disengaged is how otherwise decent people convince themselves that committing harm or co-signing harm is protecting something sacred. Okay, so by ignoring the victims, by switching on a dime, by demonstrating loyalty, by not caring what these people are doing to innocent people, they think that they're protecting something sacred. And then, there's the whole outrage economy. There's a whole outrage economy that profits off of all of this rage, all of this self-delusion. Every MAGA person is selling them something. They're all selling something. This video right here with Sean Ryan, I don't think we're actually going to watch this on this show, but Nick Sorter leaks proof of influencer payouts. This is MAGA independent news, YouTube, Twitter people busted taking payments from the soda industry to promote drinking soda. And they just slide it in and they never tell their followers, this is an ad, I'm being paid. You think that's not happening with ISRAEL? And now we can talk about Big Pharma, the military industrial complex, big tobacco, big banking, fuel, all of the largest lobbies. They're not advertising what they're paying these people to say. But if you're caught in the outrage machine of this self-delusional cult that makes you feel a type of way, you don't have the mental defenses to understand that you're just being grifted like a little like an addict, like a crackhead grifts their customers. Dennis says, if people can accept who they really are, good, bad, or ugly, they can take realistic steps to improve. Otherwise, you have bullies and cruelty feasting on the vulnerable. Self-love is missing. If people can accept who they really are, good, bad, or ugly, they can take realistic steps to improve. Otherwise, you have bullies and cruelty feasting on the vulnerable. Self-love is missing. Let me tell you how I interpret this. Like I said, the people caught in this cult, they still believe in these things. They want love for themselves, but they'll laugh at me for talking about love. And then, they suppress the shame because they know that they believe in it, but they will be bullied or made to feel small by somebody in their life if they have the courage to stand up for love. So does that not show you right there that love takes strength? If you're afraid to show love in the cult that you're in, that shows weakness because you want love, but you're afraid to show love because you're in a group that gives you a drug in exchange for denying that you care about love, denying that you care about truth, denying that you care about liberty, or saying it's okay, we only want liberty for ourselves and not for other people, and we don't care that makes us hypocrites because we're morally disengaged because we're protecting the team. Those other people are less than us. They're not human. And everybody who gets caught up in that knows that it's not true. They know it's a delusion. And so if you point it out, they feel shame, and then they get angry, and then they want to attack. Strength is the courage to be equal. So if you're in this mindset of, he says good, bad, or ugly. Let's say you're in this and it's bad and ugly. But you have the strength to look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm equal to every other human on earth. Any other human on earth, it could have been me. I didn't choose who to be born to, what life to be born into. I just woke up a human being. And because of that, I don't feel above or below. I'm not above or below any other human. Strength is the courage to be equal. And you look yourself in the mirror and you say, this self-delusion, this rage cult has made me bad and ugly. But inside, I still feel like a loving person who believes in liberty and truth. You have the courage to make that change. Anybody can come out of it, just like anybody can choose to stop being a crackhead. But most people don't. But the people trying to help them can only show up and offer a handout and say, I will help you. I will walk this path with you, but I will not get high with you, and I will not sanction your behavior, and I will not pretend that you're not a crackhead. I will not pretend that you're not a bad person when you support the worst human beings among us. That makes you a bad person, but you don't have to stay a bad person. You can change. And that doesn't mean you become a liberal or a Democrat. It means you put principles above all jerseys. I will support anybody who filters everything through these principles they want for themselves. I don't care what jersey they wear. I don't care what they identify as. I don't care. We can unite on this common ground. Anybody telling you otherwise is trying to sell you something. I have nothing to sell you. I will never have sponsors on this channel. I will never try to grift you, sell you, implant anything. Except for, hey y'all, we have common ground right here. This is a call. This is a siren. This is a beacon to say, wake up. You want these things. Why are you denying them to other people? Here are the 3 tactical rules for interacting with and dealing with MAGA. Do not chase the claims they make. We've talked about, they don't even believe the claims that they make. They do it to show loyalty. So do not chase the claims they make. Name the pattern. You shifted from evidence to team loyalty. If the rule doesn't apply both ways, it's not a rule. Okay? And that's how you can see the difference right now in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party is the Democrats don't care that there's Democrats on the Epstein list. We want to know. We want the same rules for our team that we want for your team. Show them all to us so we can kick them out, not so we can protect them. And so when they make a claim of why they're not releasing the Epstein files, is bullshit. You don't chase the bullshit. You say, you're cheerleading right now. You're demonstrating loyalty. You know that you want to expose PDFs. Why are you following this pattern of flip-flopping for a cult when you know that we should expose all PDFs and we should throw out any politicians who hinder that process, whatever side they're on? Because again, strength is saying same rules for you, same rules for us, same rules for everybody. We want it equal. You guys get to ignore the Constitution and joke about Trump having a third term. Cool, we'll just ignore the Constitution and take away the Second Amendment. You see how stupid that is? But they're not thinking anything through. That's why you can't chase the claims. You have to name the pattern and be like, you want to ignore the Constitution to give this MFer a third term. Okay, Barack can now run. Clinton could run again. Which is ridiculous. We don't want to throw away the Constitution and give these people third terms. They should be limited to 2 for the damage that they can do. We can see if you had AOC as president and she was being as flagrantly going against the law as Trump is, I would not support it. And you shouldn't either. You shouldn't support it when your team breaks the rules. You should want the same rules for both sides, or else you know you're full of shit. And we don't have to take them seriously any more than when a crackhead tells you that they talked to Jesus and they got a message for you. You take the crackhead seriously? Hell no. You name the pattern. Yo, you're addicted to crack. So I don't believe you. You're saying that because you're high right now. I'm not going to talk to you about, well, what did Jesus look like? What did he say? How can you prove it? No, you don't take crackheads seriously. You don't take addicts seriously. You don't take cult members seriously. You name the pattern that they're under. Today, you're okay with protecting PDFs because you're a cheerleader. You kneel to what you tell me is beta. You guys don't even understand the science of alpha and beta. It's so cringe. But you tell me what beta is, and it's Donald Trump. And then you obey anything he says to do. I can't take you seriously. You're just a cheerleader. Number 2, move from the slogans to trade-offs. So a slogan would be America First is a slogan that allows them to, you can say America First and it's like, okay, you're for ICE, you're anti-immigration, you're one of these type of people. So somebody's like, why are you okay with taking away due process? Again, constitutional rights. If you can take away constitutional rights, the Second Amendment can be taken away. Do you understand that? Do you understand if you guys can just pretend the Constitution is not law, that's where the Second Amendment comes from? Because that will happen. That will happen if you let the Constitution start being shredded apart. As soon as liberals are in control, they're going to take away your Second Amendment because you wanted to take away term limits. You cannot have different rules for your team than you have for the other team and expect anybody to take you seriously. So if they say something like America First, then I say, move to trade-offs. And that's get away from the slogans and the lies they're repeating. And when they say America First, say, okay, what are you willing to trade for the immigration policies that you stand for? Most of them are not even going to know what to say because they don't even know what they want for immigration policy. They don't know what they want for economic policy because MAGA doesn't have policies. MAGA tries to tear everything down that taxes billionaires. And they use the lies of rage, dividing people against each other for everything they want to tear down. They get their addicts high off anger towards whatever group is opposing them. You want us to test commercial beef and pork and chicken and make sure that it's somewhat humane and sanitary? Well, the people making the money off that can make a lot more money without those regulations. So they're going to divide people against the animal rights groups. They're going to divide people however they can. When it's MAGA, you know that it's a billionaire lobby that's behind whatever the talking point is. With immigration, it's tapping into what makes a Democrat. A Democrat is the word liberal means liberty. So if I was born here and set aside me being a Marine because Other people in my family didn't serve. They're still United States citizens. Many of you watching this didn't serve. You're still a United States citizen. What did you do to be born here? What did you do to earn being a U.S. baby? To get the liberty and the rights that you get by being born an American? Nothing, right? You just woke up and you were one. But you want to make different rules for new people than what your ancestors had to do. When my ancestors came here in the 1600s, they signed a piece of paper and started paying taxes. But then I'm born here, and then I want somebody else to have to do something different? How does that make sense? But if you can tell people who are ignorant, who don't have the right moral coaching to hear that argument, be like, do you want to be a hypocrite? Or do you want to give other people the same benefits that you received without doing anything? Why don't you want it to be equal? Why do you need the deck to be rigged in your favor for something you didn't do or earn? That's weakness. But if there's nobody to explain these to people, then they will go along with, well, these people are a threat to me. I'm scared of them. They're using fear to hook you so that they can give tax breaks to big pharma, so that they can double your insurance, so that they can take away financial regulations. They use this ignorance and fear to make money. And if nobody ever helps these people see through it, then it's like raising a child on crack and never telling them that most people don't smoke crack. Never telling them that, hey, if you keep doing this, it's going to kill you. If a person doesn't know that, how are they going to stop? They're just going to keep hitting the pipe and wondering why they feel worse and worse every day. Nobody ever said, hey, this thing that you think feels good is what's killing you. We can meet here because it's what we all want. It's fair. So don't chase the claims, name the pattern. Okay? It's not that you're not for releasing the Epstein files. You're cheerleading for who you tell me is a beta male PDF. That's what you're doing. There's nothing else to it. The pattern is you're cheerleading. Number one. Number two, move from the slogans they repeat like parrots to actual trade-offs they'd be willing to make in real life, like America first. Okay, what are you willing to trade for that policy? What is that policy? What does America first mean with immigrants? You want to just put a wall up and not allow anybody in? What do you want? What are you actually willing to trade to get the policy? America first. Okay, cool. MAGA. Okay, cool. What are you willing to trade to get what you want? But you got to tell me what you want. And you got to tell me what you're willing to trade. If you're not willing to trade or negotiate, what you want is fascism. You want to take away other people's liberty while you expand your own, and people are always going to fight back against that. It's never going to happen. Every human soul desires liberty, so if you try to stamp people's liberty out, they are going to fight back. Number three, protect your nervous system. If your heart rate starts raising, if you start getting angry, if you start feeling like, I'm not trying to hurt these people's feelings any more than if I was going to a den of drug addicts and trying to genuinely say, I've been where you are and I can help you if you want it. 99% of those people are going to feel shame that you're pointing out they have an addiction. That's going to spike their anger, and then they're going to attack you. They're going to verbally lash out. They're going to do whatever they can to distract from, I really am an addict and I do have a problem and you're right, and that's why I'm triggered right now. There's nothing in me that wants to trigger anybody. The only thing I want to do is help people stop living half lives, because when you submit to denying love and liberty, when you submit to that level of hypocrisy, you're not yourself anymore. If there were no economic or social constraints on you, you would proudly stand for love. If there were no economic or social constraints on you, you would proudly stand for liberty. So what are those constraints? And what's keeping you from shedding them? It's going to be some kind of fear and some kind of weakness, and if I pretend with you that it's not some kind of irrational fear or weakness, I'm not doing you any favors, because I'm trying to help you become yourself. Yourself is who you are when there are no social or economic constraints on you. That's who you truly are as a human being. What is keeping you away from that? I'm here to say, let me help you to that for free. I'm your brother, but I'm not going to pretend you're not a crackhead when you're in a cult. I'm here to help you. I'll show up every day. I'll be here. But I'm going to tell you the truth because I love you. Because love is not soft or weak or accommodating or always, tells you what you want to hear. Love is the truth. When you love somebody, you tell them the truth. All right, so 1, don't chase their claims, name the pattern. You don't believe in protecting PDFs, you're cheerleading for a cult who gives you self-delusion in exchange for your obedience. That's what you're doing. You don't believe in protecting PDFs. You don't believe in doubling everybody's health insurance premiums so that the big insurance lobby billionaires can make more money. You don't believe that. You're a cheerleader. Number 2, when they give you a slogan, ask them what they're willing to trade for it. What does your slogan mean and what are you willing to trade for it? If you're not willing to trade and negotiate, you're wanting fascism. You're wanting to control people anti-democratically. You're wanting to take away their liberty. The opposite of liberty is fascism. Number 3, protect your nervous system. If you're getting upset, if you're getting angry, disengage. You are now a victim of the outrage machine because all of those 10,000 lies are designed to override your logical thinking and waste your time, to put it shortly. It's made to get you riled up and waste your time so that you interact on something that's not even real. When you're arguing with a crackhead on the street, are you being productive? You might have 180 IQ. Okay, somebody with 180 IQ is not going to be arguing with a crackhead on the street, but just follow the analogy. You could have a ton of potential to be intelligent, and you could be using it all sincerely, trying to talk to that crackhead, but they're high. They're high right now. Is anything you're saying going to make a difference? Is any of the energy and thought that you're spending on this conversation with this one person going to move the needle of anything? No. So an intelligent person would never go back and forth with one single crackhead when you have crackheads overrunning your city. That's why you don't go back and forth one-on-one with these people. Now, if they're willing to debate me on this show, all day, because then limitless people get to watch it. Okay, but in the comments, no. Nope. If we can't turn it into productive content, and it would be immoral to film a crackhead who's high and debate them, but then it would at least have value, because when they come down from the high, they could see themselves and be like, oh my God, that's what I look like when I'm high. And that's the point of debating these people, but it's why they will hide from debate. These people who get triggered at me, none of them will face me. Why? I have nothing but love for you. We can compete as men in anything you need to before we can start talking policy, because a lot of these men are like, wait till I find you in the streets, blah, blah, blah. Number 1, that would be a terrible idea for any of you. But that's beside the point. Number 2 is why? Why don't you want to just face me as a man? We can debate, we can set up a boxing sparring match, whatever you need to do for us to get to talking about this, I'm here. And I'll turn it into content that limitless other people can learn from. But going back and forth in the comments, no, that's somebody who needs attention. That's a crackhead who's triggered but not serious about the issues. And we don't have time for that, just like we don't have time to argue with a random crackhead on the street corner telling you how he talked to Jesus yesterday and he has the message that the world needs to hear. No, motherfucker, you're high. Okay? So these are the 3 ways that liberals need to deal with MAGA. Do not chase their claims, name the pattern, take their slogans to trade-offs they would actually make for the policy that they're saying that they want. And number 3, protect your nervous system. If you're getting angry, why are you going to get angry at a crackhead? They don't mean it. They're high. Their body is craving something that has nothing to do with you. You are just a means to rob or to, don't look at me while I'm doing it. You don't have anything to do with their addiction. But if you come in and talk to them about it, prepared for the shame that they feel to turn into anger, to turn into an attack, and don't take it personally. It's not personal. Protect your nervous system. Love means I refuse to dehumanize you even when we disagree. I will not dehumanize you. You can get out of this. This is not who you are. This is who you are, no matter who is watching this. You were born wanting liberty. You were born wanting truth. You were born wanting love. Why would you be ashamed to stand for those things? Why would I be ashamed to point it out if you move away from those things I know you want? Love means I will not dehumanize you when we disagree, but I will not accept bullshit and not call it out. I will not watch you destroy your life being a half submissive version of yourself to men you define as beta and not be like, brother, you're better than that. Brother, you're stronger than that. Brother, you are hooked on a drug. Brother, you're in a cult. That is not dehumanizing somebody. That's saying, I know what you're capable of. You're capable of this, and you're afraid to stand for this. There's a problem, my brother. Liberty means the rules have to go beyond my tribe and what I want for myself and expand to everybody. And same for you. You want liberty, you have to give the same to other people, or it's not liberty. Then it is fascism. When you want freedom for yourself, but chains for other people, that is fascism. We can't mix opposite words and pretend that words don't have meaning. The meaning of words is how we have civilization. It's why humans are different than primates, because of language. Okay? Knowledge cannot exist without language and the symbols that we call letters and words put together and sentences put together and documents put together of sentences. Language makes society, makes knowledge, makes intelligence, is how we know how to fly airplanes and make trucks and go to space and have satellites and have Wi-Fi. None of that exists if words lose their meaning. Liberty can't be fascism, and fascism cannot be liberty. Liberty means the same exact liberty I want for me, I have to give to you, and vice versa. I can't dump toxic waste in the local river, neither can you. I can't spray toxic smoke into your yard 24/7 by putting a factory beside it, where I sell stuff on Amazon, make a ton of money, but I spew toxic chemicals into your yard. I can't do that. You can't do that to me. I can't pick up a non-white person in your family and just send them overseas because no due process, because I say, hey, you're not part of this group, you have to leave. Then you can do that to me. You guys can say that Trump gets 3 terms, we ignore the Constitution, then we can remove the Second Amendment, bitch. Same rules for everybody. No, we can't remove the Second Amendment, and you can't change the 2-term limit unless you go through the way that our laws say we change the Constitution, which is why it almost never happens. It's very hard to do. It requires almost everybody being on the same page. So no, you don't just get to, as a president, be like, I'm going to ignore the Constitution, because then President AOC, President Mom Donnie can be like, you know what? I'm ignoring the Second Amendment. Go confiscate all the guns. Liberty means the same rules for everybody. And if you're not living by that, then I'm not doing you any favors by being like, you should be ashamed of that hypocrisy, because you're better than that. So to MAGA, come debate, tell me why I'm wrong, disagree with me, but you have to do it face to face, man to man. Nobody believes you typing behind an anonymous. We just assume that you're a gravy seal in a disgusting, dark, pitiful basement, getting high on rage, just needing some attention that no male in your life would ever give you. When you're afraid to either call up on the phone or debate by video or do it in person or compete in any way. Some of these kids want to call me an idiot or whatever, and it's like, okay, if you think I'm an idiot but you're okay with Donald Trump and Kash Patel, what standard are you using? Are you talking about IQ? Okay, let's have it. How do we compete? If you want to call somebody a name but you don't want to compete to prove it, nobody's going to take you seriously. And again, liberals cannot take crackheads seriously. If you want to confront the addiction, don't chase the lies, name the patterns they're using, almost always cheerleading, obedience, loyalty, jersey cheering, not actually debating principles or ideas. Take the slogans, ask them what they would trade for what they think they're saying. America first? Okay, what would you trade for that? What would that look like? Now you can get into actually talking about some real stuff. And protect your nervous system. Do not get mad at a crackhead calling you names. Okay? Finally, there's 5 tests that I'm going to use on this channel. You can copy and paste these. Use them at your Thanksgiving table, in a group chat, with your peers or your friends, or whoever you debate with in your own group chats. Or you could use them at a town hall meeting or a state house hearing. 5 things. They're down here: the mirror test, the receipts test, the human cost test, the equal liberty test, and the strength test. And I'm going to very quickly go through them, and then I'm going to get my workout on, and then we're going to get out of here. During the workout, I will respond to anything in the comments. We're going to watch YouTube videos and react. Ron says, Trumpsters are disengaged masses because they aren't honest with themselves or others. It's a sign of immaturity and ignorance. All true, Ron. Let's break it down a little bit. Trumpsters are disengaged masses because they aren't honest with themselves or others. It's a sign of immaturity and ignorance. And we've talked about so many times on this channel, why are they dishonest? Because they're showing obedience and loyalty. They think that cheerleading, demonstrating their obedience, their loyalty to the gang, they think that's more important than the truth. And why? Why do they think that demonstrating loyalty and obedience is more important than the truth? Because we know that they know they're lying. Again, we can use the Epstein example until the cows come home, because even though there's 10,000 examples, there's nothing more stark than we must expose the PDFs to, hey, Trump said Epstein who, so now we're just pretending like it's not a thing. They know that they're lying. They know how absurd that is. Why do they do it? They're showing how obedient and loyal they are. Why do they believe that showing that kind of obedience and loyalty is more important than truth? Because of what they get from the cult, from the gang, in exchange for that obedience. And what do they get? Okay? They get to feel like there's something they're not. And it manifests in many different ways. If you put on a red hat and you are as weak as Donald Trump, who couldn't do one push-up, one sit-up, one pull-up, if his life depended on it, okay? If his life depended on it, that man could not press himself up off the ground. But if he wears the red hat, he gets to be strong. He doesn't ever have to work out. He doesn't ever have to put in any work, any self-discipline. You put on the red hat and you say you're strong, and the other hyenas, the other gang members, the other crack addicts pretend along with you. You put on that red hat, you say you're smart, you've never read any books, you've never passed any tests, you have no credentials. You've only stolen money your whole life, you've never even made anything real. But you get to pretend that you're an expert in business and that you're intelligent if you wear the red hat. So that's why they do it. So yes, Trumpsters are disengaged masses, as Ron says, because they aren't honest with themselves or others. It's a sign of immaturity and ignorance. But we can't stop at immaturity and ignorance. We have to understand, because if you just say that person is immature and ignorant, it sounds like there's no hope for them. Even though that's not what you're saying, and I know it's not what you're saying, because just because you're immature today doesn't mean you can't develop maturity tomorrow. Just because you're ignorant today doesn't mean you can't start seeking truth and wisdom tomorrow. But we have to be explicit about that, the way that if we went to a den of crackheads, we wouldn't just come in there, cut the lights on and say, you're all crackheads, we're throwing you in jail, because we know what that does. If you actually want to help a drug addict, you have to address, why do they need to disengage from reality? Why do these people disengage from reality? That's when they lie. When I lie, I'm disengaging from reality. And I'm doing it to show obedience to this cult. Why? Because they feel shame, and that shame makes them angry. And this group of people, just like a crack dealer on the street, is like, I've got the answer, bro. I've got the answer. And everything they're telling you to do, liberals, that's going to be hard. Actually live by these principles every day and hold yourself accountable and be honest. That's hard work, bro. That will feel not so good sometimes when you realize that if you stand for truth, every day you're going to have to admit things you were wrong about. And that's not a bad thing, but to somebody who feels shame and a drug dealer saying, just get high. Come put on this red hat and we'll turn your shame into pride just like that. And then they all pretend. None of them feel strong when they know they're not, but they know the other people will play along with them, and it's all play pretend time so that we don't have to do any real work. If we want to debate how we make society reflect these values that we all want for ourselves, that's going to be hard. That's going to require showing up. But these people are caught in a cycle where they feel like rage is the answer. Ganging up with a pack of hyenas to show cruelty to other marginalized group of people, somehow that will make everything better. And they don't even believe it, they're just getting high. They're getting high on avoiding the self-work. The same reason any crackhead gets high to detach from reality, they're avoiding the self-work. And so when we go to them, we can't just say that you are immature and ignorant. We say, hey, right now you're being immature and ignorant because they tricked you into that. That is beneath your potential. At your potential, you can be intelligent. You can have integrity, which I would call the opposite of immaturity. I would say is a man who has integrity. And we offer you that bridge, but we can't get high with you. We can't excuse what you're doing. We can't ignore what you're doing. But when you admit that you have a problem with shame and anger and you're fueling it with this rage cult, we're here as your brothers. And we have love for you, which is why we tell you the truth. Why we will not pretend with you. Why we will not make it easy for you. You actually have to show up and believe these things to meet us here. And then we can talk about anything you want. Terry Marie says, hello, what is this? Terry Marie, this is just my own personal, I call it like the way you would pick up trash in your public park if a gang was coming through, trashing your park with graffiti, with toxic sludge. That is what I believe MAGA is doing to our society. So I'm training for something right now. I'm doing a full body workout every day. And usually I talk for like 15 minutes and then I get into the workout. Today has been a longer talk. I'm still going to get my workout in and I'm just documenting it for what I'm training for. So next year you guys will find out what I'm training for and all of this will make sense because I'm documenting basically that I can do a full body workout every day and it's going to prepare me really well for what I'm training for. So I'm documenting that. But while I'm here documenting that, I want to talk to these young men who have been sucked into the MAGA cult. Young men who want liberty for themselves, who want truth for themselves, who want love for themselves, but have been lied to that they should deny these things to other people and that makes them strong. Because we have, just like this show, we have all of these little, it's called the manosphere. It's called getting red-pilled. It's called the alt-right pipeline. And it takes young men who are looking for male influences that they haven't had in their lives. And it's using those male influences to grift them into MAGA. And they're always selling them something. They're always selling them rage. They're teaching them that being cruel to marginalized groups makes them strong. They're lying to these young men and it messes up their lives. I grew up in the right-wing type cult. It messed up my life, but I've come through the other side. And so talking about this is there's just a lack of liberal men showing up because these are not our children. The children who go into MAGA, who become rageful, incelibate, people who want to take liberty away from others, who want to deny truth, who want to deny love. Those are the children of neglectful fathers, of neglectful parents. And for too long, liberals have been like, those aren't my kids. I mean, it sucks that they're falling into that cult. It sucks that they've become half version of themselves by submitting to men they define as beta males. They tell us what alpha and beta means, and then Donald Trump is the embodiment of everything they say beta is, and then they kneel to him. And how does that happen? It happens when people have no male role models in their life to say, hey man, you want these things, right? I know you do. I know every single human on earth wants liberty for themselves, wants truth for themselves, wants love. You know what's strong? Is the courage to be equal. You want to be strong? You're a weak little boy and you don't have a man, and you think what you want to be is strong and intelligent, and you have this right-wing group selling them drugs like crack dealers, saying, hey, come get high on rage. Come get high on spreading the lies that we want to spread throughout society, and just be obedient to us. Just do whatever we tell you to do, and we'll be your gang. We'll be your pack of hyenas, and we'll make you strong. No, that's not how strength works. Strength is when you say, you know what? I want these things, so I'm going to stand for these things. And what I tell these young men is, if you're MAGA, you're afraid to represent these things in your life to somebody, to an unfit father, to a cruel and misguided church, to a bigoted ignorant social group. If men are MAGA, they are afraid to stand for love. They're afraid to stand for truth, and they're afraid to stand for liberty. And we're just here to talk about why that is, and to say we can meet on this common ground at any time. I don't need to know what color jersey you wear. I don't need to know anything about you if you tell me you stand for these principles. And so the point is getting kids, getting young men, getting old men, getting ignorant people away from cheerleading a cult and away from cheerleading and into embodying higher principles. Not cheerleading a freaking jersey, but looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, how do I show up and show people that I stand for these things that I want for myself? And I'm strong enough to say, if I want these for myself, I want them for you. I want them for your family. I want them for every immigrant. I want them for everybody on earth, because what did I do to choose to be me? Which one of you remembers before you were born being like, I want to be born this person to these parents in this country on this day? No, you woke up. You woke up and you wanted liberty, you wanted truth, and you wanted love, and then human beings poured into you whatever got poured into you. And some people stay with this, and other people, what pours into them is like, hey, come get high with us on rage. Come get high with us on demonizing this group of citizens and pretending like that makes us strong. Come get high with us on repeating these slogans that our masters tell us to repeat. We don't even know what they mean, but if we do it, they'll let us pretend that we're strong when we're weak. They'll let us pretend that we're smart when we're ignorant. They'll let us pretend anything we want. All we got to do is be obedient and loyal. And like a crackhead, like somebody hooked on OxyContin, they're getting high with a gang. And if somebody comes and turns the lights on and say, hey, you're getting high, you actually believe in these things, what you're doing is going against your own beliefs. What are you doing? That makes them feel shame. The shame turns into anger. The anger turns into, I'm going to attack the person who called me a drug addict. I'm not going to actually think, what is this drug doing to me? It's making me not myself. I'm choosing to trade my life for a fake version of myself. And that's what MAGA is doing. Ron says, speaking truth to MAGA, Trumpsters mean nothing until they're willing to seek it for themselves, but that would mean dropping their shield of ignorance and immaturity. Ron, exactly. It's nothing until they choose it for themselves, and that's why I compare them to addicts, because if you want to help an addict, you show up every day. You show up every day and you're like, I'm here, but I'm not going to lie to you and pretend you're not an addict. I'm not going to show you love by letting you come in my house while you're high and case my joint. But I'm going to show up for you every day with boundaries and say, This addict is not who you are, but you have to choose. You have to be like, you know what? MAGA is making me miserable. MAGA is making me a person I don't even believe in at my core, and say, what do I do? Because maybe I don't want to be a Democrat, maybe I don't want to be a liberal, but I want to show people that I'm not a crackhead anymore. I'm not a cult member anymore. I'm not MAGA anymore. What do I do? That's where real men show up and say, young man, old man, brother, sister, can you meet me here? Because I will embrace you. But not until you meet me here. I will not take the opposite of liberty, which is fascism. I will not meet with fascism. I reject fascism because it is the opposite of liberty. And liberty means same rules for you, same rules for me. We don't get to have different rules for different teams. You don't get to ignore the Constitution and give Donald Trump a third term and then think that liberals won't take your Second Amendment away. If you say the Constitution is meaningless, where it regulates a president to 2 terms, then they're going to say it's meaningless about your Second Amendment. That's fascism. Liberty is nope, same rules for everybody. The Constitution is the law of the land, and if we want to change it, we have a very specific way that happens, and it's hard because almost everybody has to agree. But that's what liberty is. Liberty is same rules despite jersey color. And so you can't meet me here if you're MAGA. You have to leave MAGA to be pro-liberty. Now they lie and they say that words aren't what they are, but now we're back to arguing with the crackheads on the street corners. They don't believe what they're telling you when they're high. They're showing that they're high. These people don't believe what they're saying when they say that MAGA is pro-liberty. They know it's not. They're high and showing obedience to the cult because the cult gives them the feeling that there's something they haven't earned when they show obedience to the cult. When they're loyal to the cult, that's how they pay the drug dealer. And the drug dealer, the high they give them is, you're not strong, you're weak, but we're all going to pretend you're strong. You haven't read any books, you haven't demonstrated any intelligence, you can't debate with anybody, you don't understand economics or policy on any level, but we're going to tell you you're a genius because you put that red hat on. That's the high. And like getting high, it feels good if you've been living in shame and mediocrity to all of a sudden have a gang who has your back. It feels good, but like any drug addiction, it's going to kill you in the long term. It's going to keep taking you away from the things you truly believe at your core until you're a shadow of yourself, like any addict. And like Ron says, until they say that they admit they have a problem and they need help, we can't help them, but we can show up every day and be like, we're here for you. But we're not going to play with you. We're not going to play dumb with you. We're not going to play pretend with you. We're going to show up and show you real love, which means telling you the truth about what's going on. And we'll offer you a hand to come over here, but we are not going to meet you in the drug den with the drug addicts. We're waiting here on common ground, which we know that you're okay with. Because we know no matter who you are, you want all of these things for yourself. Why do you deny them to others? And if they can't answer that honestly, then like Ron says, they're choosing to stay in ignorance and immaturity. Terry Marie says, this is awesome. Thanks for speaking the truth and informing the youth. The crackhead example is funny, but it's real. I mean, it's like funny, like we laugh to not cry, right? Because it's really not funny because it really is the same thing. Like the same reason that a crackhead can't face reality is pitiful. But sometimes crackheads say funny things. Sometimes they do funny things. You know, there have been entertaining crackheads. I'm thinking of, I think Richard Pryor was into crack and did a few of his specials on crack. That's totally off the top of my head. I could be wrong. Please don't sue me, estate of Richard Pryor. Not like you would ever see this. I'm just saying, sometimes you laugh to keep from crying. And when you see that these people are addicted to rage and self-delusion from a place of self-loathing because they have been taught by poor role models or by their church or by whoever that they're not worthy, that they are not, that being themselves is not enough. If they don't join this cult, if they don't go along with this religion, if they don't go along with this gang, then they're nothing. You know, these people will be outcasts. So they go along, they give up their free will, they give up their agency, which immediately makes you not yourself. If you have to go along with what a weak bitch like Donald Trump tells you when he says release the Epstein files one day, ignore them the next day, you have given up your free will. You're not yourself anymore. Who are you? You're a cult member. So, it's sad. It's sad. But because it's sad and because it's pitiful, that doesn't mean that we take a crackhead lightly. Like, it's sad that a crackhead is addicted to crack, but you don't invite them into your house while they're high, right? You may love them. They may be part of your family. You may be willing to do anything to help them, but is it smart to let them in your house when they're high? No. So the danger is real. The damage that they can do to society is so real, but it's pitiful. And it can be kind of humorous saying, why do they spread these 10,000 lies they don't even believe? Because if you try to prove lie 1 out of 10,000, 2 out of 10,000, 3 out of 10,000, 4 out of 10,000, you could disprove all 10,000 and they'll circle right back to number 1 and say it again like you didn't already disprove it. And you're like, how does this happen? They don't care what they're like parrots, okay? Parrots, you train them to say things, and when they say them, you give them a treat. They don't know what they're saying. They're not having a real conversation. They are showing that they know how to get a treat. MAGA, by showing obedience and loyalty to change their beliefs on a dime, they don't care what's true. They're not trying to argue for truth. They are showing MAGA that they're obedience. They believe they're protecting something bigger than themselves, so it's okay to lie. And like a crackhead ranting to you on the street, it's not about what they're saying. It's about that they're high and they're under the influence of the drug. And so when MAGA is saying spreading this absurdly toxic, dishonest bullshit, when they're talking about the Biden crime family, while Donald Trump is starting his own crypto coin and scamming hundreds of millions of dollars out of the tech industry, out of the crypto industry, grifting more than any president has ever done, they couldn't care less because they were never standing on principle. They were cheerleading. And they were cheerleading a team who gives them self-delusion. Okay? So, alright. Since we've already been an hour and 15 today, I'm just going to do my workout today offline. I'm just going to do it, and screw it. We'll go ahead and at least get in a couple of sets. And I'm going to put on YouTube, I'm going to put on some videos I have queued up. I'm not actually going to watch this one. I wanted to use this. This is Sean Ryan, who I do not like. He's part of the he's not one of the worst people, but he's part of the red pill, these are the dudes who take impressionable young men and teach them apathy. He doesn't talk about love, truth, or liberty. They talk about conspiracy theories and which group is trying to manipulate you and this conspiracy and that conspiracy. And it's never, how do you make yourself a better man? How do you become a more intelligent human being? How do you show up as a stronger citizen in your community? A father, a brother. It is about, let's tap into these hot button topics that we can make money off of. And they're all selling stuff. But this video here is this guy comes on and actually shows him proof of right-wing, supposedly independent media outlets taking money from like Coca-Cola and PepsiCo and stuff to subliminally promote soda drinking, which I'm not going to take a stance on either way. Like, I drink diet soda. The point is, these influencers were not telling anybody that they were saying these talking points because they were being paid. And we've seen right-wing people like Tim Pool and others where it's revealed they were literally getting paid by Russia. Literally being paid by Russia, and they pretend to these young men that they're just independent bros, looking out for you. And they're all trying to sell something. They're getting paid by somebody. And it's like toxic filth being spread through our community because it's easy to just be like, well, that would never be me. But the sludge is in your yard, man. The sludge is in your park. The kids who are being affected by this are going to make your life worse with how they show up in society, like a society overrun with crackheads. Even if it's another group of people's kids becoming the crackheads, if the crackheads are just growing throughout your city, you better do something about it, or don't be surprised when there's so many crackheads that it's too late. So if we don't start pointing these disaffected, disillusioned young men back to their own, what they believe, I don't need to convince them of these things. I just need to call them back. These are who you were born at your core. Before any of this got dumped into you, you already believed in liberty. You already believed in truth. You already believed in love. If you stop believing in any of those things, it's because other people sold you some bullshit. I don't have to sell you these things. You were born with these things. We just have to remind people, this is where our common ground is. This is where we make rules that apply the same for my team as for your team. If you ignore the Constitution and say Trump gets 3 terms, liberals ignore the Constitution and say, what Second Amendment? You see? It's all fun and games until something you care about applies to the rules you make. You want to make the rule that the Constitution doesn't apply anymore? Guess what? The Constitution doesn't apply anymore can mean the Second Amendment goes away. Oh wait, no, we don't have to go by that rule. Only you have to go by that rule. That's fascism. Every child understands that. Keep your hands to yourself. Yeah, you can swing your arms around, but you can't hit Billy in the nose. And if you do, expect him to hit you back. Every child knows these things, but as they grow up and they have a lack of good influences in their lives, it's hard to grift people who stand for these things. It's hard to manipulate and control people who stand for these things because they're always going to be unique. The way that you manifest liberty, truth, and love as a human being is going to make you your fingerprint. Uniquely who you are. Nobody else is going to express these in the exact same way. But none of these things, if every human being comes to this island of liberty, truth, and love, and every human being really puts those first, none of them are going to agree on everything, but they're all going to get along. There's going to be peace. There's going to be prosperity. And that's the point. You're not going to be able to manipulate these people, though, because they're going to always be looking for truth. If you manipulate them one day, they're going to figure out the truth the next day, and then they're going to discard what's false. But if you get people hooked on a drug and you're like, listen, I'll give you this hit, but you got to say that the sky is red. An addict is like, okay, the sky is red, give me my hit. Because they've been separated from this common ground through some kind of pain, some kind of trauma, some kind of bad information poured into them. So we have to show up and do what we can. And this is a tiniest channel on YouTube. However, I want to be documenting my exercises anyway, so I just got in my head, something inside of me is saying that I have to talk about this because I came from that cult. And getting away from it changed my life. I'm so if I could write a perfect life, I would write my life. And my perfect life would not be the same as your perfect life. But if I just live in my life feeling happy and grateful, and I look at these young men being taken down a path that I was taken down, that if I wouldn't have gotten turned around from, I hate to think about what my life would be. And something inside me says, you gotta talk about it, man. You got to, just like there were men who showed up to say, hey, why are you too weak to stand up for love? Why are you too weak to give other people the same liberty that you want? Why are you too weak to accept truth when you've been proven wrong? Because other men showed up for me and took me away from this cult of denying reality, denying other people liberty, denying other people love, and made me realize, wait, you want these things for yourself. Why would you try to deny them to other people? I have to show up. I have to do something. I can't just chill in the life that I love, feeling like I won the lottery every day that I wake up. Like, feeling like there's nothing I would change. Like, I'm so happy except for seeing other people being sold these drugs that are killing them, which is the cult of MAGA, which is rage, which is hate, which is self-delusion. I could ignore it and just focus on everything that's great about being alive. And when I'm not dealing with this, that's what I do. But if I was only doing that, I start feeling guilty. And it's like, man, you need to take a stand. You need to call out this bullshit that you're seeing, that you came out of. And who cares if it helps one singular person? If I do these videos 5 days a week for the next year, and it helps one person become truly themselves, then it would all be worth it. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Terry Marie says, it's all just a big cult, or like I like to think of them as like a dog. Dogs are loyal to the end, good or bad. Yes. And so when you submit to a cult, you are becoming just an obedient animal, like a dog or a parrot performing for treats. Who's going to give me treats? I will be loyal to that person. And what makes us human is our free will, our logic, our prefrontal cortex, the ability to reason and say, I understand why 1 + 1 is 2. That's what makes us a human. I understand that fascism is the opposite of liberty. That's what makes me human. When you deny that truth, you become like a dog. You become an obedient pet to a man that they define as a beta male. Everything that MAGA says is beta describes Donald Trump to a T. And then they're gonna be that beta's dog, that beta's parrot, that beta's pet. And I'm here to say, you do not have to be. You can choose that life as a crackhead, being an obedient pet to get treats. But every day, you're gonna know that this is who you really are, and you're not being that today. Or, when you get high enough, you forget that that's who you are. And when somebody like me shows up and says, hey, why are you being a dog? Why are you being a pet? You're a human being. You have free will. You want these things and you're afraid to stand up for these things? What's wrong with you? Many people who enjoy being a dog, who enjoy being a crackhead, who enjoy being a pet, they will feel shame when you shine that light on them of reality. Then they will get angry and then they will attack. Sometimes people will feel shame, they'll get angry, and then they'll attack themselves and be like, you know what? Inside, I know what's true, and I know he's telling me the truth. And I'm angry at myself because I don't know why I need this every day. Why do I want to be a pet? Why do I want to be a dog? Why do I want to be a cult member? Why do I want to be weak for these men that I call beta males? Why? How did this happen? And then we have a chance to say, you don't have to stay there, young man, old man, sister, auntie, whoever, because it's mostly white men, let's be real. So I'm mostly speaking to white men that you don't have to live with that shame. That shame comes from denying who you really are. And so real men will show up for you, not to make fun of you, not to tell you that you're hopeless, not to say we're better than you, to say you're in a cult, you're an addict, you're being weak, you're being a pet, you're being a dog, you're being a parrot. Grow the fuck up, because you can, because I love you enough to tell you the truth and let you attack me out of the hope that you can find who you really are, because eventually you're going to see, if you attack me, all I'm trying to do is keep pointing you to who you were, who you are at your core. And I'm not trying to sell you anything. I have nothing to grift other than to say, I was stuck in this, and without good men to show me the truth out of actual love, who could have just ignored me and let me go farther down that cult grift universe of rage and self-delusion. They were like, I love you enough to tell you the truth, man. I'm strong enough to not be afraid of you disliking me. Changed my life. Terry Marie says, keep speaking on it because you're going to change someone's life for the better. And that's if we ever reach, and I already have had multiple people take off the red hat. So it already has been worth it in my life speaking out. I just haven't, it's new to YouTube. So I already know that out of 10 MAGA, there's one who's ready for this message. And that one is worth it. And when that one finds themselves here, they don't need continuing help. They don't need a program. They don't need a continuing mentor. They simply need to remember every day, wait, these come first. Because they did come first. When I was born, these were inside me. Before anything else was poured into me, I wanted all of these things, and I don't know where that comes from, but I know that must make me human because that was intrinsic to me. I didn't choose to seek any of these things for myself. I just woke up as a human being wanting these things, and then other human beings poured in their influence, and then other things happen. Some people who have good influences poured into them get these things reinforced. People who are looked at as pawns or pets or minions to be controlled must be separated from these things. If you're born into a corrupt evangelical church who wants to control their followers as pawns, they must separate them from these things because people who live by these principles could never be manipulated. And how do you manipulate somebody away from what they want for themselves? You say those other people are not the same as you. You're God's chosen one. Those people are less than. They're not actual humans, but people know that's a lie. But they have to go along with it because the cognitive dissonance would cause them to come back to truth and be like, wait, I can't accept that lie because I stand for what's true. But the church is like, believe the lie, let us give you this self-delusion, let us give you this rage that blames other people for all the bad things that's happening. It's never your fault. You're stronger in a gang. We will protect you, but if you turn against us, we will attack you. And so they get surrounded, and everybody in their life believes these things they know aren't true, but they're like, man, what am I going to do? If I start standing for these things, everybody I know is going to reject me. Same with crackheads. Crackheads have to be willing to leave all of their drug-using friends behind, and only like 1 out of 10 people have the strength to make that choice. But they're all worth it. And every one of them becomes another advocate to help people out of the muck. Every time you change one, you get another person who, once they establish this in their life, is going to see other people suffering in a cult like this and be like, I got to say something. I got to do something. I can't just sit here and be silent. Even if my life is good, even if my life is gravy, I will feel guilty if I ignore these people because that could have been me. It could still be me. If people hadn't randomly come into my life and shown me the love to tell me the truth, even when they risked me lashing out at them, they were strong enough to be like, this is true, bro. I like you as a friend and everything, but if you can't handle the truth, then we aren't for each other as friends, as a mentor, as a leader. And because people did that for me, we've got to try. We've got to do whatever we can. All right, I'm going to play some YouTube videos. I guess this is going to be a long one today, but I do want to document my workout. So I was just going to cut this and do my workout by myself, but why not just keep it rolling? And then anything y'all want to talk about in the chat, we can talk about. Otherwise, I'm just going to let these videos play that I have queued up to watch and react to them while we work out. And I'll be reacting to anything you guys want to talk about in the chat. But, there's no rules. We've talked about everything we wanted to talk about today. And so let's get into some of these videos I think really embody what we're trying to communicate to people. Here is a sergeant. This is just a 1 minute and 40-second video. I'm going to let it play. But just to kind of give you the gist of what's going on here. This guy has been in the Army for 20 years. okay? I only did 4 years in the Marine Corps, so I have a lot of respect for people who do the full 20. But this guy is describing something that led to me leaving after 4 years under George Bush and Dick Cheney. But he was called in and disciplined for social media he posts where he was being slightly critical of, and I can't even say their name because the algorithm will do things, so I will say Israel. Israel. Okay, he said some slightly critical things about them, and the United States Army is disciplining him. Just watch the video. This is crazy. Please try to take in what's going on here. And he will do a good job explaining it. I'm going to do my first set of curls. I'm going to be doing 80 pounds, 40 in each hand. Some people have wanted to know the weights, so I'm going to try to call out the weights before I do them. So we're doing 80-pound curls, 40 each hand, and I want you guys to listen to Sergeant Estridge here, 20 years in the U.S. Army. Listen to this.
So after 20 years of service in the military, yesterday I got pulled into an officer's office and counseled for a post that I have on my social media. During the counseling, they told me I'm under investigation as a threat to national security. When I asked for proof, like what the posts were yesterday, they refused to give it to me. They made me come back today to further go over stuff. They gave me the proof, and the proof they gave me are anti-Israel posts. Now, when I joined the military, I took an allegiance to support the United States of America. I did not ever take an allegiance to support Israel. But yet, I am deemed a threat to national security because I do not support Israel and their genocide against the Palestinian people. Yes, you heard that right. I am deemed a threat to national security because I don't support Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people. Since when does not supporting a foreign nation get a U.S. soldier investigated for being a threat to national security?
It's election day in the USA, and
So, again, what is going on? What is going on with that country that he got in trouble for talking about? That I'm afraid to even say their name because of the algorithm. And eventually, if this channel does grow any, I will set up something like Patreon or Substack or Discord, somewhere that I can speak freely to you, because coming from an intelligence background, I have a lot that I want to say about ISRAEL. See, I don't even want to spell it out. And I could tell you all these reasons why and why I'm afraid to talk about it, but I would not say it on YouTube. I would not. I will not. I would talk about it to somebody on the phone, but it wouldn't be this phone. But on a platform, we can cross that bridge in the future. I would just pay very close attention to things like that last video because I'm just having to bite my tongue. There's so much I want to say that I'm not going to say, but this man has given 20 years of his life to the United States military. They have labeled him a threat to national security because he criticized a foreign country. To give 20 years of your life and you can't tell the truth and you don't have liberty, what else needs to be said. Let's listen to these brilliant women. Man, I know MAGA really gets triggered by these women, and I would encourage them, when you feel triggered by these women, stop and ask yourself what you're really mad about, and write it out in a sentence, and then send it to me, or come debate me. Because most of what triggers MAGA about these women is they tell the truth, and they get right to the shame. And we will pause the video and talk about a few instances where I will be like, see, this, what they just said, it makes people going along with it feel ashamed. And then they feel angry at feeling the shame, and then they either attack the person that told the truth, or 1 out of 10 people look inside and say, wait, if I'm feeling shame and anger about what they said, maybe I need to change something.
Former Vice President Dick Cheney.
These lateral raises we're doing with 60 pounds, so 30 pounds each arm on the lateral raises.
He has died. I'm sending thoughts and prayers to his family, but I will remember, and I want to remind you I'm an atheist, I will remember Dick Cheney for the 2 following things. Lying in the lead up to the Iraq War so that he can enrich the military industrial complex. And also, I will remember the campaign in 2004 when the Republican Party via Karl Rove put gay marriage on the ballot to feed the culture wars that we are fighting so much right now. And he has a gay daughter. And as a parent, I will never, ever understand how people can say they love their children and then go out and support so much hatred and bigotry towards their gay children. It's just unbelievable. All right, moving along. Speaking of bigotry and hatefulness, let's listen to nut job MAGA Congressman Representative Randy Fine, who is having a stage 5 meltdown about Zohran Mamdani.
For Zohran Mamdani to be deported. The only thing I want to see him running for is his gate at JFK on the deportation flight to Uganda.
What a racist dick, and he is no different than Nick Fuentes. There is no difference in this style of bigotry. They just cherry pick human rights, and they cherry pick only the human rights that affect them, and they will not go to bat for anybody else. And this is the inherent cancer in the Republican Party. Pumps.
Well, here's the thing. The Islamophobia, they breed it in the Republican Party. You see, Laura Loomer has President Trump's ear, and she's constantly, the most hateful lies about Islamic people. And here's the deal. All of this shit from all these Republicans that have nothing to do with New York City, you know what that tells me? They're scared. They know how good he is. They know that working people like him. They know that triple Trumpers are going to go vote for him today, and they don't know what else to do about it because they're so limited in critical thinking skills. They have to go straight to racism.
Well, it also thwarts their efforts to use racism, because the narrative in the United States for a very long time, and it's been rather effective, is that Muslim people have a bunch of wives and blow shit up. Okay, so then if you have this progressive candidate that is Muslim, that walks in the Pride Parade with a trans flag, that stands up to the oligarchy and stands for universal human rights with no ambiguity in it, where it's I stand up for Jewish people and I stand up against anti-Semitism, I stand up for Muslim people and I stand up against Islamophobia, I stand with the Black and brown community, I stand with the trans community, I stand with women. All of these things are linked. And so it's a real optics problem for them to have a progressive mayor, because then their Islamophobia is going to start falling flat, and it's not going to be as successful for AIPAC to grift off of the American taxpayer to send bombs to Israel. So this is a 911, house is on fire for them because they have to keep Americans thinking that all Muslims are a monolith, which Zoran Mamdani proves is absolutely 100% false, and that he's a bigger Christian than any Christian I've ever met, and he's Muslim. All right, moving along. Kanks participates in what is straight up election interference. He goes on Live Social and puts up this rambling, I'm not even going to read it to you, but in summary pumps, he basically says that if Zoran wins, he is not going to send money to New York. This is straight up election interference. That's what it is. Any other candidate, any other president would be called out. Corporate news would be stage 5 meltdown. But for some reason, this white guy is always allowed to do this kind of shit to black and brown and marginalized people. And everybody gives him a pass and spikes the story.
Well, I think that part of it is that a lot of the people, I mean, obviously.
So again, we talk about the mirror test. If Barack Obama tweeted what Donald Trump tweeted about withholding money from New York based on who the citizens of New York elect, if Barack Obama did something like that, or Joe Biden, it fails the mirror test. You already know how they would react. So you can't want different rules for your side than you want for the other team. Or else, if you want to ignore the Constitution, your Second Amendment right can be taken away. If you want to pretend the Constitution doesn't limit what Trump is doing, then we're going to pretend we're going to throw away the Second Amendment. See, you can't make different rules for your team, like the Constitution only applies to you, not to us. If you do that, you're a crackhead in a cult. You're not a serious person. You're not even a real person because you've given your mind over to an organization that uses you like an animal.
A majority of the Republicans, they feel the same way. They are just as racist and homophobic and misogynistic as he is. But the corporate media, he's got all his buddies in place. He's now going to turn CBS News into a state-run media Fox-style enterprise. So there are certain news channels, it surprises me that they are not blasting him. But he's got social media cronies. He's got CBS News now. He's got Fox. And Fox viewers agree with him. They like it. They think he's a tough guy. It's so disgusting. But I think in New York, they're smarter, and Donald Trump coming out against Zoran Mamdani makes them more apt to vote for him. That's just my opinion.
And he has endorsed Andrew Cuomo in the most bizarre way. He has said, I would rather vote for a bad Democrat and endorse a bad Democrat. That's what he calls Andrew Cuomo, than a communist. And everybody knows that doesn't watch Fox News, that Zoran Mamdani is not a communist. And that basically democratic socialism is highly regulated capitalism. And I wish the branding of that would be a little different, because there's been a decades-long effort to people that don't know what socialism is, for them just to think it's, oh, that's demonic, that's crazy. Right. But nonetheless, Cuomo calls into this radio show and they're talking to him, and they ask him, the interviewers, they tell him that Trump called him a bad Democrat and said that he would endorse him. And Andrew Cuomo hangs up. Watch this clip.
Boy, it was just on 60 Minutes, Cuomo, saying that you're his guy.
No.
Trump said you're his candidate. If he had to pick a bad Democrat or what did he say? Or a communist, he's picking you.
Click.
Hello.
I think that they cut him off. I think he had to rap.
You just get, oh,
Click.
I really wanted to hear that answer. That's what I was going to ask you.
Ebro just got spicy.
Okay. This is what I'm just so sick of with the Democratic Party. We need party unity, and the fact that a lot of Democrats endorsed or silently and passively endorsed Andrew Cuomo, we have to be the party that says, look, New Yorkers went and voted. This guy won by double digits in the Democratic primary. He beat Andrew Cuomo by 13 points. Andrew Cuomo has a very Trumpian past. He's been endorsed by Trump, Musk, and all the other flea bags in the MAGA movement. And we want as much daylight between us and them as possible. And we hear you, voters. We hear you that you are sick of the system being rigged for billionaires, and these billionaires that are engaged in these histrionic meltdowns right now are going to be just fine. And if you want to pack your toys up and move to Florida and live in Kitten Hills, depraved state, swing for the fences, big guys. Do it. Leave. It's just pathetic that there isn't unity in the Democratic Party behind him. And I find no joy in calling out the Jeffries, the Schumers, or the Cory Bookers. It's not fun. I want to be able to say, yes, this is my political party. Everybody's united against these fucking fascists. And no, we're not going to have an Andrew Cuomo. He lost. You need to gracefully congratulate your opponent and then pull out up the race altogether. And then as a Democrat, you're supposed to endorse your primary opponent. And again, there is this Trumpian overlap with Kanks and MAGA in the Democratic establishment. This is the kind of stuff that would happen in MAGA. And MAGA excuses it. And as a Democrat, I am not going to excuse the politicians that have not robustly endorsed Zoran Mamdani. You could very easily say, look, he's further left than I am, but I hear the people and I believe in democracy and I endorse him. And Andrew Cuomo lost and he needs to pack his toys up and he's threatening to move to Florida, which tells you how important New York is to him,
Right.
and move on down the road.
Well, I look at it and I think, is the Democratic establishment so threatened by the message that Zoran has carried to the people and that they have embraced, his constituents have embraced? Are they so scared about it because they're unable to deliver it? Because they have to be backed by all the corporate donors. And if they're not going to listen to the people, the Democrats are a lot smarter, they're more informed, they're critical thinkers. They're going to leave that establishment. And I'm just going to say again, the establishment lost us in 2024, the House, the Senate, and the presidency. So they need to sit down and shut the fuck up.
And I also think a lot of this pumps has to do with AIPAC. And so when you look at AIPAC donations, AIPAC and its affiliates spent the same amount of money that Elon Musk did. A Democrat should say, you preferred Donald Trump to win. You prefer fascism. You prefer the exploitation of the American taxpayer for your ethnic cleansing plans in the Middle East. Therefore, your money is toxic, and I'm not going to take it because it does not help my constituents. But they won't do it. The power of this lobby is astonishing. There are people on the right that are very bad actors that do not agree about universal human rights, that bash Israel for the sake of just being anti-Semitic and not for standing up for Jewish people and for justice and for human rights, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, like Nick Fuentes, like Tucker Carlson, and now the Heritage Foundation. And Booker, Jeffries, and Schumer, and not having moral clarity on this issue, and for taking money from an organization that donated the exact same amount as Elon Musk did, is the equivalent of Booker, Schumer, and Jeffries taking money from Elon Musk. It would be toxic. They'd be thrown out of the party. And so we have to keep calling them out, because I believe that's what's at the core of this. And a brave politician would be like Zoran and would say, look, I'm Muslim. I've fallen prey to bigoted attacks, to xenophobic attacks. So because of that, I understand anti-Semitism, and I unite with Jews in eradicating all of these bigotries because they are all connected. And that is the only acceptable answer. You cannot cherry pick. This group's rights are paramount to this group.
So what she's talking about is the equal liberty test. Number 4, if your policies give your team a different amount of liberty than the other team, it's bullshit. It's not true. It's a lie. It's fascism. Liberty means equal liberty for everyone. You can't dump radioactive waste in my water. I can't dump radioactive waste in your water. My liberty stops where your nose begins, and vice versa. But for MAGA, the way that you can tell the difference between the two parties is one side wants the same rules for everybody. MAGA wants different rules for their team than they want for other people.
And so on
and even their followers know that that's wrong. Okay, so when you point it out, they feel shame, but they show loyalty to the team if they don't put truth first, if they would rather have what the cult gives them as trained pets, as crack addicts, if they still want that drug of rage and self-delusion, then the anger they feel after the shame is going to get directed at you for pointing out the truth, that they want different rules for other people than they want for themselves. If they have integrity, like me, when I was in that cult, I couldn't reconcile that. I was like, when mentors or positive male role models in my life would point out to me, why do you want benefits for yourself different than an immigrant coming in? Did you ask to be born where you were born? Did they ask to be born where they were born? If you say that you stand for love and liberty and truth, why do you want them to have to play by different rules than you did? And when I was in that cult, I couldn't reconcile that. I kept thinking about it, and I kept noticing every time that MAGA, that right-wing Republican parties, policies were trying to make different rules for us than other people would have to live under. And because I cared more about what was true, I had to stop identifying as a Republican, as a conservative, because I saw this systematic, it started with George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, rejection of truth, of outright embracing lies, and I could not ignore it. And because I knew that if I went along with it, I'm not myself anymore. I'm just your pet. If I just have to show you loyalty for the drugs, for the social, for whatever vibes you're giving me, if I have to lie for you, I'm not even myself. What am I? And that's what MAGA has to realize. When you're lying for these men that you define as beta males, because we just take MAGA's definition of beta male and look at Donald Trump and say that's same thing. You want to be his pet because you can't stand up for these things in front of him. Why? Why will MAGA attack you and make fun of you and outcast you if you actually try to live by these principles that you all want? You got to ask yourself, why will they attack you if you try to live by those principles?
Go on, because ultimately the knives get thrown and aimed at the other groups. All right, listener, the air has turned crisp. The holidays are drawing near.
No commercials.
Have Kanks on video, and he's pretty upset about what's happened to Prince Andrew. And Pumps, it has been revealed that Prince Andrew, on a trip to Asia, I think it was a 24 or 48 hour period, had a gaggle of 40 prostitutes, 40, in and out of his room. King Charles has found out about this. He's kicking him off the royal tit, so to speak, evicting him from his house. But let's hear what the GOP, the Guardians of Pedophiles leader, has to say about Prince Andrew. And then I've got to get Pump's take on this.
stunned. I mean, not really, because he was on the pussy committee for Prince Andrew, if I'm remembering correctly. But for him to say he feels badly for the family. What about the family of the victims? What about the women that were trafficked? He doesn't give a shit about them because women are disposable. And let me just tell you this right now. For him to sit there and defend Prince Andrew after all that has come out about Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein only further...
MAGA dudes, listen. You didn't mean to become PDF protectors. You didn't mean to become the footstool of a man you call Beta, who wishes Ghislaine Maxwell well, who gives her a cushy prison, and you know he's going to end up pardoning her, who says that he feels bad for Prince Andrew. That's who you're showing obedience and loyalty to. Wake the fuck up. This is our common ground. You don't have to change jerseys. You don't have to do anything but deny that PDF-loving cult and say that you stand for these principles right here, and we're brothers. That's it. That's all you gotta do. Stop supporting PDFs because of the self-delusion that they give you for wearing that red hat.
Confirms how deep, how cankles deep he is into this shit, and he sees it's coming. And I'll tell you what, the British public has gotten a lot of these emails between Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew. And let me just tell you this, I went down the rabbit hole on a plane this weekend. You know who they're alleging to have leaked all these emails?
Ghislaine.
About Prince Andrew to the
Ghislaine.
British press?
Definitely.
Ghislaine Maxwell.
There you go.
That sound familiar to you?
She's
When
doing
you're
it to
sitting over in
threaten
Country
Trump.
Club Prison. So that
She's
tells
like,
me Trump is
You
fucking
better take care of me,
scared,
motherfucker.
because he knows
Yep.
everything that's going on with Prince Andrew, it's coming for him.
Yep.
It is coming for him.
Exactly.
And you know, it's interesting because we can do an
Exactly.
episode like this, and you're talking about the New York mayoral race, and we're talking about democracy, and we're talking about xenophobia. And the Epstein is linked to all of this because it exposes the moral rot in Republican leadership. We're just everyday Republicans that look the other way at this. And then how, in my opinion, this is linked to the Democratic establishment is you wouldn't take money from Elon Musk because he would have spent $1 billion if he had to, and it would have affected his life zero.
Right.
But you take money from the same entity that promotes a guy that protects pedophiles. And that's just really, really telling to me. Benjamin Netanyahu specifically wanted Kanks to win because he knew he would be much easier to manipulate. All right, and lastly, I'm going to leave you with the post of the MAGA meltdown over Zohran Mamdani because they are so racist and such billionaire ass kissers. It's pathetic. These are pathetic, pathetic, pathetic people. Put up the headline.
If you follow the money behind any MAGA policy, okay, young men, okay, old men, aunties, uncles, any policy of MAGA, if you follow the money, it's going to billionaires. It's always about serving the billionaires with MAGA. All of the rage, all of the anger, all of the self-delusion is the Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain who is a billionaire. It's all meant to distract them like crackheads from how rich the crack dealer is becoming. Don't pay attention to how much money I'm making off of your suffering. Just get high on this rage, on this anger, on this self-delusion. Take a step back. Follow the money. Any MAGA policy that you want to point out is going to protect billionaires. Stop being the pets the obedient little parrots of billionaires who use you like animals.
House Republicans exploring ways to prevent Mamdani from being sworn in as New York City mayor if he wins on election day. And Max Burns says totally normal in a free society. Of course, he's being a deadpan there. But this is why it makes me so fucking mad. Yeah. At Booker, Schumer, and Hakeem. Hakeem was very late to the party, which tells you everything you need to know. Booker and Chuckles, cricket still on this, and you provide comfort and permission structures for this racism. And if you really give a shit about Jewish people, the most supportive thing you can do is call out the Israeli government and the war crimes that they are committing and the exploitation of American taxpayer dollars through buying off politicians. That is the most supportive thing you could do, because I know this, because the most supportive thing anybody can do for America and Americans is to call out this fascist regime. Call it exactly what it is. Call out the Nazi tendencies and actions and parallels of this administration, and stand up for universal human rights and stand up for democracy. But there are people within the Democratic Party that play patty cake with fucktwats like this. And that's why posts like that pumps exist. All right, listen, a great way to support us is to buy our book, Life is a Lazy Susan of Shit Sandwiches. Subscribe, like this video. If you are in New Jersey, Virginia, California, New York, any of the places having elections today, get out and vote. We have to vote. We have to do everything we can do to preserve our democracy. We'll be back later with more news.
We got one more.
Popeye's $6 Big Box is back.
At Intermountain Health,
Good grief. I can catch my breath.
Manu, you get it first.
Okay.
Richest man of the world, Elon Musk, the Sig Heil saluting freak show that has like 100 kids and an alleged botched penile surgery. And you read that on his very own website, the free speech website, the non-fake news website. So I imagine it must be true. Has endorsed Democrat Andrew Cuomo for mayor. Kylie popped this up. And here we have Elon endorses Cuomo. I mean, what an accomplishment for Andrew.
It really is the party of incels, man. When I see Andrew Cuomo, lots of alleged, and I think even beyond alleged, sexual assaults and harassment claims. Elon Musk, literally no woman would ever speak to him if it wasn't a gold digger type situation. Just like Donald Trump, allegedly. This is a party run by incels. And if you disagree with that, you gotta be an incel. If you disagree with that and you're not an incel, please come debate me, because I do not believe you. I will not believe your anonymous screen name typing at me. I will not believe it for a second. Show up. Because I think this is worth pointing out, because the young men that they trick into coming into their cult, they trick those young men into thinking that this is how you become manly, this is how you become masculine and attract women. But these young men never look. These men don't attract women. There are no beautiful, intelligent, independent women who like anybody in MAGA. It's all gold diggers or Stepford wives who've been brainwashed by a cult, which means they're not even real people. Like, these women who are brainwashed by evangelical Christianity, they give up their free will to do what they believe their church and their priest tells them to do. They're not real people. They're not themselves. If you took those religious constraints away and you just made them free, and you look at any independent, beautiful, successful women, none of them will go for MAGA. If you are MAGA, you are going to be an incel, or you're going to be limited to broken women. Women who think they need to wear 5 pounds of makeup and fake eyelashes and fake hair for you to be attracted to them, because they aren't real human beings inside. When you find beautiful, talented, smart, successful women, they are going to rule MAGA out immediately. Why? Because you cannot be for any of these principles if you're MAGA. And real, bad, beautiful, independent women want men who embody these traits. They want men who are strong enough to stand up for everybody in society. They want men who are strong enough to be equal and don't need an advantage because they're not afraid to compete with an immigrant, with anybody, because they love everybody. Those are the type of men that women want to be in a relationship with. So you got to understand, when you see these fucking losers who have more money than they know what to do with, but they're so miserable and full of rage every day, and you're like, how can you be that rich and be that miserable every day? Because the shame, they thought that that money and that power were what finally were going to get females' attention. Finally, they could get high quality women to pay attention to them if they just get rich enough. And then they do all of this evil to get rich, only to find out that the only women that care are women that nobody would want to be with.
Cuomo. And then Zoran Mamdani retweets with comments and says another big endorsement for @Andrew Cuomo, and it only costs $959 million in tax breaks. And let's just take a moment to ponder that, Pops. Imagine you're so rich that you get $959 million in tax breaks. And per MAGA, I don't believe this, and I know you don't, but they're an America first, America's for Americans only. This MFer wasn't even born in the United States.
South Africa.
No, he wasn't born here.
But he's white.
Let me just tell you this.
He's white.
Elon Musk's Doge was a complete and total shit show. They didn't say.
Hang on, let me ask you something about that.
Okay.
Don't you think that there was some illegal shit that went on with that too?
Of course. I would bet my right arm, my left arm, and both my French bulldogs that they're wet on a daily basis. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But here's the thing. It cost $959 billion in tax break. It also cost the workforce of the federal government that was fired and rehired. It cost the people on airplanes that crashed their lives. And it cost the brand of the United States government. And it cost all of us, because the minute his big balls crew got in there and got our personal information, Russia hacked into it. I mean, that's all fact and record. So it cost a lot more than $950 billion.
Not to mention all of the investigations into him that have now disappeared. Allegations of racism, allegations of safety, a lot of investigations into his company. Because at the end of the day, if you're a billionaire, you have earned a lot of that via exploitation, via labor exploitation. And something in these guys breaks when they get that successful at capitalism, and the moral rot that ensues is just an advertisement against capitalism big time. All right, moving along. Zoran.
All right, I'm gonna stop with 2 sets today because we're doing this 6 or 7 days a week. Some days we do up to 4 sets. Today I'm just feeling kind of cooked. So we need our body to recover every day if we want to work out full body every day. And the reason that we would rather do less intensity every day instead of super intense long workouts 3 days a week is because if you do the math, over the course of a year, you get 2 or 3 times more volume if you can do a little bit every day. Now, that is not what you need to get in shape. I'm training for something specific. If you're just trying to get in shape, I did some podcast episodes that have all the information you need. Diet is the key. And you don't have to take any specific diet. You need to track your calories. And without going down the rabbit hole, when I say track your calories, people think, oh, it's going to be so hard, it's going to be so tedious. How badly do you want to lose the weight? Because it's really not hard. The apps on our phones have made it so easy. I've already helped several people lose significant amounts of weight, and all I did was convince them to start tracking their meals in a calorie tracking app. And it's that easy and it's that hard. The hard part is having the discipline to do it. But if you do that, you are guaranteed success. Okay, so the diet has to do with losing body fat, or if we need to eat in a certain way to gain muscle, that's going to be diet if we're working out. But exercise is either to build muscles, specific muscles. It's either to build strength, to be able to do a specific thing like hiking up a mountain, lifting a certain amount of weight for a certain amount of time, or it's about endurance, cardiovascular. Okay, so the workout that you choose is going to change very, very much based on what your end goals are. So when you find out what I'm training for, you'll see what my end goals are, and this will make sense. That being said, let me wrap up the presentation part of the video, and then I'm going to sign off and see you guys again tomorrow. I've been wrong many, many times in my life, okay? On policy, on people, on values. The moment that changed me from being in that cult was not ever getting owned. It didn't change my beliefs for somebody to own me. It was when somebody calmly showed me the cost of my claims when I was representing that group. The cost of the claims I was representing for that group to someone else. When somebody calmly showed me that the policies that I was advocating for cost and hurt other innocent people that I respected, and ultimately cost me because I had to live in denial of my true values that were there before a cult poured theirs on top and buried the ones that I was born with. And that person, those people, left me room to walk back to this common ground without shame. So they didn't own me, they didn't shame me. They calmly showed me that my beliefs made me a hypocrite, that my beliefs cost other innocent people, and that they ultimately hurt me in the long run. And they gave me the room to walk back to this common ground we all share without shame. That is the move. Shame fuels anger, fuels attacks. Dignity fuels change. Telling MAGA people, you are this. You are better than the rage. You are better than the lies. You are better than serving PDFs. This is who you were born as. Reclaim your dignity. We cannot lie to you until you do. We have to tell you the truth. You have to tell a drug addict that their behavior is not going to be accepted in the environment of good people doing real work. The crackhead's not going to be welcome to come into the calculus class. Although we do maintain a path to say you can still come, you can still be here. But you have to step onto this common ground and you have to mean it, you have to be serious. And if you do, there's room for everyone. No one will be denied. This is my direct challenge. Man to man, okay? Man to man, human to human. If you believe in your own strength, then show me. Show me. Show me the strongest move. Apply your rules that you want to your own side first. Bring receipts, not your childish attention-seeking rage. I will meet you with respect and hard questions. If you cannot offer equal liberty to the people you don't like, just say that out loud. And own what that makes you, a fascist. If you don't want equal liberty for the people you don't like, then say that and own that that makes you a fascist. Because liberty means same liberty for everyone, period, full stop. The opposite of that is fascism, where one group gets liberty and they deny liberty to others. That is fascism. It's not about jersey color or debating words. These words have meanings. And if you're repeating them like a parrot, but you never really went and looked and discussed and studied and read what liberty is, what fascism is, with a desire to simply know the truth, not to defend your jersey, not to cheerlead, but what is actually true? What does liberty mean? What does fascism mean? If you don't care about the truth, then just say so. And admit what that makes you. Don't hide behind freedom while you're trying to swing a whip. Don't you dare use the word freedom while you're trying to hold a whip against your fellow men. That's not conservative. That's authoritarian, submissive, bitch-made behavior. Submission to authoritarian power, aggression towards your peers, licensed by your MAGA gang leaders. Conformity to a cult over your own self-conscious. We are all better than any of that. This is our common ground. No jerseys matter here. If you believe in these principles, we're brothers or sisters, and it's as easy as that. And we can debate everything under these principles, saying that whatever rules we make for our own team, we're going to apply to the other team. You can't ignore the Constitution when it says Donald Trump can only serve 2 terms and expect to keep your Second Amendment right. If the Constitution can just be shredded by a president, then a president can take your Second Amendment or your First Amendment away. So stop playing dumb. Stop trying to cheat. Be honest. Make the same rules for both teams. All right, y'all. See you tomorrow.